Inside of Alex Hormozi's $100 million closing playbook, he breaks down exactly what to say when people give you ridiculous objections when you're trying to close them. So, if anyone has ever said to you that they are too busy, that this is too expensive, that they don't think it's a right fit for them, that they need to check with their spouse or their business partner, or that they've been burned before, that they're fearful that it's worked for others but it won't work for them, or the dreaded send me a proposal or an email and I'll take a look and I'll get back to you objection, this is literally the only video that you need to watch, because I'm breaking down every single objection handling framework that Hormozi has and that he has detailed inside of this fantastic book. So, let's get started. First of all, we need to understand that people don't say no directly. Like, in a perfect world, people would have perfect information and they just need to be presented with the right offer at the right time and shown a good price. But people are full of fear and they're afraid to say no. And they're afraid to tell you the real reason that they won't purchase. And so it's up to us to, as like sales and marketing experts, to peel back the layers of the onion. And I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean it, well, I mean I do. But Hormozi talks about this in the book, The Onion of Blame. And it's up to us to peel back the layers of the onion and go from external to internal, because the internal world is really where the change happens, and most of people's fears lie. And they'll give you a whole bunch of like circumstantial and other people stuff that doesn't really exist, and blame, like put all of the responsibility on other things. And so it's up to us to be like, yeah, I understand that, and then bring it back and try to come to the self. So, like I said, there are three types of blame. There's circumstances on the outer edge, which are usually smoke screens. Excuse me if I cough. I'm still a little bit sick, but we're shipping anyway, bro. So circumstances, time, I'm too busy for this, money, or fit. And then other people is usually another decision maker where they don't want to be the one to take on the decision themselves. So they put the decision on someone else and they say, oh, I'm sold, but my wife, you know, she needs to buy in, on my business partner, or I just need to speak to my co-founder or whatever. Or they've been burned before. I get this a lot of the time from people I speak to, that they've worked with agencies in the past. Agencies have lied to them, whatever, and they've been burned before. And then the self, which is very a rare occurrence, where people don't give you all the smoke screens and they just talk about really the things that's stopping them is fear. And if you get to that point, you're very close to closing the sale, and you've built a fantastic rapport for them to be so honest and open with you. So, and then avoidance, just be like, they're confused, they don't see the value, they don't know exactly what to do next, and there's something fishy going on, they don't know what it is, and so they just put it off, right? Which is like, you know, death in the sales world. So here are some all-purpose answers. This is kind of like the 80-20, right? Right, so for anything that is not a yes, one of Hormozi's favorite and most powerful objection handling questions is like, well, what is your main concern? Like, what are you afraid of? What exactly are you afraid of happening here? What, like, let's talk about that, you know, because it doesn't sound like that's the thing. Like, what are you afraid of happening? And let them talk. And often just like, don't interject and don't just be like, oh, I'm gonna close them so bad. Let them talk. And then oftentimes the first thing they'll say will be a smoke screen, and then they'll say, well, actually, you know, and then they'll talk about the real reason. And so then you've got the reason close. And then so the very reason you're saying no is the reason you should be doing this. Like, if people say that they don't have the money, you go, well, that's actually the reason that you should be doing this, because what we're promising you is you know, more revenue, etc., which will equal more money. And so you won't be in a position like this where you have to like count your pennies, because you'll just have a flood of new revenue coming in through this new system. Doesn't that make sense? You need to always be leading with understanding, first of all. So you'd never want to argue with them. Okay, that's really important to mention. You should always follow the Zig Ziglar approach here, where it's like, yeah, I understand. I totally get it. If I was in your shoes, I'd feel exactly the same. Can I tell you what? And then, you roll into your objection handling. Can I make a suggestion? What's always worked for me is, instead of arguing and being like, no, you're wrong, instead of saying that, I would say, no, I understand. For sure. I know it would be crazy to make a decision right now. If I was in your shoes, I would feel literally exactly the same. Like, you don't know me from Adam. But can I make a suggestion? Yeah, and then tell them what you want them to do next. Or you can tell them a story and then put the responsibility on you and be like, I'll give you some examples later, but let me run through these closes. And so that's the reason close. The hypothetical close is like, okay, well, if this were perfect, would you do it then? And then we're like, well, yeah, I guess I would do it if it was perfect and it was priced well. Okay, well then, so what's the difference between perfect and what we have? And then sort of try to like poke holes in their theory and get them to sell themselves, right? And then the zoom out close. And so you go, okay, so like, let's zoom out here for a second. Well, let's project this out even. And you go, okay, for the last 5 years, you've struggled with X. We solved that problem. Isn't over-analyzing the details why you haven't been able to hit that thing yet? Like, if we zoom out and you don't solve this problem over the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months, next couple of years, are you not just going to be in the exact same position that you are now? Well, this and that, and they'll go, okay, but like, why haven't you solved this yet, Mr. Prospect? And so this is like a little bit of some of the gap selling stuff, but this is a fantastic close here where you zoom out and like try and oftentimes you can even go, okay, let's put that objection over here and let's just talk about this from a completely different perspective, and that works really well. And then I'm not a big fan of this because I feel like it's a bit silly, but it works on 1 to 10 close. So like you go on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible and 10 being perfect. Like, where are you now? And they say, okay, 7. You go, okay, what would it need to take from 7 to 10 for this to be perfect? And then just hear them out and then handle those objections. And then best case, worst case, this is like a favorite one of mine because I find that people, they often giggle when I say the worst case because I'm like, okay, what's the worst case scenario here? Like, let's zoom out. You can mix them. Let's zoom out here and say, what was the worst case scenario? Okay, well, worst case scenario is that I take your money and I disappear to Nigeria or something, and I disappear from the face of the earth, and you never see me again. Right? That's the worst case. It's what you're worried about happening, and then you have a giggle and you go, okay, no, but seriously. So the worst case here is you take a step today closer towards your goal, and the worst case is you should always have some kind of guarantee that we return you double your money back, or in my case, it's like $100,000 of pipeline, so we 10x your investment in pipeline over the next 90 days, or we work for free until we do. So that's the worst case, and you have all the SOPs and the structures, and that you can plug these things into your business, and we give you all of those that you can take it and use it however you'd like. That's the worst case. All right, so you're going to be significantly closer to the end goal that you wanted to get to today. That's the worst case. The best case is that we hit your desired result within that 90 days and it's a raging success, right? And so, like, what are we doing here? Because if that's the worst case, then what are we doing here, Mr. Prospect? Now, those are all-purpose answers. Now, for circumstance-specific objections, which is basically them saying, I'm avoiding buying your thing because of stuff out of my control, right? Everybody is always trying to put the onus and the responsibility on things that are outside of their control, which is a part of human nature, instead of taking responsibility and accountability. It's just something that people do, right? Including all of us. Let's be honest. So again, before you argue, don't argue. You should always say, "I understand, totally get it. That's a completely fair point. If I was in your position, I'd feel the same way." Can I tell you a story about Sally and John that had the exact same problem? Or like, I had the same problem when I was in your shoes, and this is how I solved that problem. And then you give them these objection handling frameworks. And so, so time first. Like, people will say that, I think it's often really helpful to help them show where their time goes. If you really want to get confrontational about it, or if you're in person, you can actually get them to pull up their phone and show their screen time. This was a big one for me. When people are telling me that they don't have time to do certain things, I go, open up Instagram. How many hours are you spending on Instagram? Okay, so what if we just deleted Instagram? Crazy idea. You just get 3 hours a day back. Imagine what you could do with 3 hours a day. This is only going to take you 2, and it's going to get you to all your goals. Isn't that worth it? Crazy, right? People say that they don't have the time. It's a super busy season right now. Oh, everything is just so hectic, and you go, yeah, no, I understand, totally get it. That's like, if I was in your shoes, that's exactly how I would feel. Can I tell you why it's actually really important to figure out how to do this thing during one of the busy seasons? Because busy seasons come and go. Would you agree? And so there's no point in me selling you a solution if you're only able to execute it when you've got nothing on your plate. Because almost all the time, you're going to have something on your plate. Would you agree, Mr. Prospect? Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Okay, so then what kind of a solution makes sense where you can only do it 5% of the year when you've got nothing on your plate? Yeah, and so if you can't do it while you're busy, it won't last, right? It needs to be an ingrained habit that is able to be done at any time, etc., etc., which is why the best time to start is right now. You'll get busy again, right? Even if you wait, life gets busy again. And if you start now, you'll be able to stick with it forever. Besides, this is supposed to give you time back, not take your time, right? And so that's this is actually the reason that you should be doing it, so that you can get time back. And then the when then flip. When I have more time, then I'll start, is like saying, when I'm healthy, then I'll go to the doctor, right? You're here because you have a problem. I'm here prescribing a solution, and you're telling me that the time that you'll start is when you are everything is all in a row and everything is perfectly healthy and everything is going right. But the reason things aren't going right is because there's a problem, and we're trying to solve that problem. Can you see that? Does that make sense? And then the smartphone close. So if you open up your smartphone, pull up the time usage, you'll be able to find some time. So that's what I mentioned before. Now with with money, good things aren't cheap. How many people have watched a YouTube video and lost fat? Probably no one. Well, okay, how many people have lost fat with a one-on-one support coach? Probably almost everybody. It's too much money. Well, it's actually good if it's too much, because you'll be serious and more accountable. How many free PDFs have you got sitting unopened inside of your email address, inside of your email inbox? Yeah, probably 100, just like I have. Can I tell you what? I spent $6,000 on these books, so you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm going through them with a fine-tooth comb, and I am extracting as much value as humanly possible from these things. I paid $18K to be part of Alex Hormozi's ACQ scale advisory, and so you can best believe that I'm watching every single second of those workshops. And they are coming soon inside the free school group, which you can access here. And so I will be creating like light summaries of those. So here is the, speaking of, His next one is in 16 days in the ACQ Scale Advisory. The marketing one was an absolute masterclass. So I will be dropping like the comprehensive notes inside the classroom, inside the Shipping Society, where you can see I'm filling out all of this content here. But I will still be creating content for you guys, of course, inside of the Dopamine Digital Free School group, link down below. So if you want to check that out, make sure you're inside there. It's completely free. Or like and subscribe. I'll post the content here as well, and we'll put the SOPs and the worksheets and stuff inside this group. But anyway, back to this. So either way, you pay, right? So you can pay with your time or your money. And so I often find that working with business owners, if you can show them that by saving them, and you can actually quantify it and prove that your solution will save them X amount of time, and that amount of time equals this amount of money, or this amount of increased or decreased productivity, and you can quantify the result, it's really powerful. And almost always you can quantify the result. Even if you sell something that isn't specifically time or money based, you can almost always quantify the result. And so I would highly recommend that you do that. So you can go, okay, well, like, this is going to save you like 5 hours a week of your time. Like, how much is your time actually worth? Because if you want to do this all by yourself, and if you're, $500 an hour, we're talking about, $2,500 here. And my solution is only $500. So isn't that like it's basically making you money. It's like printing free cash, isn't it, at that point? And so you can get creative with these sorts of things. It's all just about reframing, right? And then the next layer of the objection onion is other people. And so what they're saying here is that they don't want to buy because someone else is preventing me. So they're still blaming others, but they're no longer blaming circumstances, they're blaming other people. So what if they say no? So if they say, well, my spouse or whatever needs to weigh in on the conversation, you go, okay, cool, fair enough. Like, yeah, I totally understand. Like, if I was in your same shoes, I would feel the same. What if they say no? Are you going to do it anyway? Okay. And what if they say yes? And then does that mean you're going to do it? And what do you think they would say to you achieving all of your goals and solving all of those problems that we just talked about? Do you think they'd want you to solve all those problems, or do you think they'd want you to sit and suffer? Right? And so this is kind of like bleeds into the next one here, is like, has your spouse supported you on big decisions before? If your partner knows you're happy, then why would they stop you? So they're probably fine with it already. So it's like, if your partner knows that you're struggling with this thing and knows that you want to do this, then why would they stop you? If they are your life partner, and if they say no, are you seriously going to let them steal your dream and stop you from achieving this outcome that you so desperately need? And then this one here, if you're an agency owner, this is kind of like, you hear this so many times that, oh, they've been burned before. That's such a common thing that I've heard, that people have been burned before. They've been promised the world, an agency comes in, and then they charge them thousands of dollars, outsource all their work to the Philippines, and then they're like, oh, damn it, no results. And sometimes they churn only after 5 or 6 months, and they're like 0 results. It's crazy, guys. So I always try to lead with empathy here, because there are, agencies out there that really don't care, and they'll just suck them dry. So, look, totally understand that. Like, if I was in your position, I'd feel the same. That's exactly why we have this guarantee in place, is to completely protect you. So, worst case, this is the worst case, this is the best case. But honestly, John, like, are you going to let that stop you from taking this opportunity up? Are you going to let that person steal this opportunity from you as well? Are you going to give them that much power over your life? And then, show them how this program is structured differently, show them proof, show them guarantees, show them social proof, show them risk reversals, whatever you need to show them. And then, like I even said once to, so I had a client that they had, I think 3 agencies scammed them or something like that. And I said to them, I noticed you're wearing a wedding ring, right? And he's like, yeah. And he showed me the wedding ring. And I says, and so I'm sure that you've had relationships before that didn't turn out the way that you wanted them to before you met your wife. Would that be right? Yeah, okay. And so how crazy would it be if you said that you didn't want to go out and meet your current wife first time you met her because you were going to let all the other bad experiences that you'd had in the past stop you from pursuing, this love that you have with your wife. Like, imagine the opportunity that you would have left on the table if you'd let those other relationships stop you from doing that. You just learn the things not to do and the red flags to look for, and you learn how to be a little bit more aware each time, right? And so that's why we have these guarantees in place to show you that we put our money where our mouth is, etc., etc. And then the self-blame. So this is quite rare, and if you get these, then you've got fantastic rapport, and you're close to a breakthrough, in my opinion, in my experience. So they're basically saying here that they don't want to buy because they're scared of making a mistake. And there's a lot of people out there like that. And so if that's the case, we isolate and we solve. Okay, and we try and solve with logic and not emotion because, we can't get people to make emotional decisions, even though people buy with emotion, justify with logic. I'm assuming that you're selling something that isn't a $20 widget. And so they look like an absolute fool if they say Jordan forced me into an emotional decision to spend $5,000 on a thing. And so they need to be able to back it up with logic. And so you isolate, solve with logic. So what would specifically make it for you versus not for you? Or it won't work for me. And so you say, are you saying that because you don't believe you could succeed with this, even though others in your shoes have? Right? And so always be like, what makes you so special that you don't think that you can succeed with this, even though here is a wall of proof of other people who have succeeded with it? And if you don't have that wall of proof, then I would point towards the guarantee and you go, okay, best case, worst case again. And so, like, have you succeeded at stuff in the past? Or have you specifically succeeded at stuff in the past? Like, if I haven't ever delivered results for a client before, but I had gotten incredible results for something else in another area of my life. I even interviewed a guy once who I only took his call because he was a world-class sprinter. And he was interviewing about a copywriting job. And I'm like, well, if somebody can show up for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, whatever it is, to be a world-class sprinter and win his division, he needs to be disciplined, blah, 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 right? And so all of those things translate into everything because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? So I would always point it towards those things. And then results over preference. So another way to think about this is like, do you want pleasing methods or pleasing results? Because I can give you pleasing methods, but this process will take 5 years. Or there are a couple of things that we need to do in a certain way that maybe are slightly unorthodox or maybe slightly new, and it'll be like a little bit of a learning curve. Now, they won't be difficult. They just won't be obvious. And once you do them, you'll have the pleasing results. But you can't have pleasing methods and you can't have pleasing results. It's the same with everything. Do you want to eat like Big Macs all day and lose weight? Because that's probably not going to happen. But like, what's more important to you? Is it eating the Big Macs or is it losing the weight? Do you want pleasing methods or do you want pleasing results? Because if the pleasing methods was going to work, you'd already have figured it out because you've been trying those things, right? Yeah, so let's try it our way. Is that fair enough? Yeah. And then the Jordan Belfort. Is that fair enough? Sound fair enough? and then the inevitable progress. And so I always like trying zooming out and going, okay, look, honestly, the only way that this does not work is if you quit. If you just show up and you just do the action steps, it's so foolproof that you will 100% win. That's why we're able to offer these guarantees, because we know that if you put in the work, then you will get the result. And if you're doing the work for them, then you can take on all of that responsibility, and you can say that's why the guarantees are in place, and that's why we have this structure, etc., etc. Right? It's just math. And then as a little bonus here, when they blame rushed decisions, so they're like, oh, I don't want to rush this decision, and you go, okay, well, let's be real. When has waiting ever made a hard decision easier? You either solve the problem today or you let it linger and it costs you more, right? And so I think most people understand that there is also a fear behind making the wrong decision. And so you can say, I understand you don't want to make the wrong decision here, right? But that's exactly why we have a 7-day, no questions asked money back, right? So like if you are not 100% satisfied, I literally don't want your money, because I want to turn you into a ridiculous case study. I want to plaster you all over my website, and I don't want you to do that. I'm not going to be able to do that if you're uncomfortable. So look, if you really, really are unsure, we can take 48 hours. I can hold your spot, and I'll rip up the order form or whatever if you give me the go ahead, if you tell me to in the next 48 hours. But look, if we don't solve this problem today, I know that the cat's going to get sick. Kids are going to need to get a new pair of shoes or whatever, and it's just going to be us having this conversation in 12 months from now, and nothing has changed. Right? Is that what you want? I need to think about it more. Totally get it. But thinking and deciding are very different, right? Thinking without deciding just adds time, not clarity. The only way you'll know is if this is the right fit for you is from the inside. Because how else could you possibly know, right? Just the way you wouldn't purchase a new car without test driving it. You wouldn't purchase a new house without going inside and looking around and opening some of the cabinets. How could you possibly know if this program, if this agency, if this whatever is the right fit for you if you don't go inside, poke around, and have a look around and start using some of the stuff? And if you do decide that it's not a fit for you, hey, that's completely fine. Like I said, I don't want your money. Honestly, I don't want your money. It's not we're doing okay over here. And so pull it away from them. Okay. And so another one, throw a monkey in the wrench here. Throw a wrench. I don't know. There's monkeys and wrenches. So you can like take it completely away from them, and taking it to an extreme here, what would make it a complete no? So you totally understand, you want to think it over. If you don't mind me asking, what would make this a complete no? Like what would make this terrible decision? And just hear their ridiculous fears and see if you can handle it that way. And then one of my favorite ones that I sort of touched on a little bit earlier, but pineapple. How much has not making this decision already cost you? So like what is the cost of inaction? Quantify the cost of inaction. So you are at $10,000 a month and you want to get to $20,000 a month, right? My program is $5,000 a month. Okay, so how long have you wanted to be at $20,000 a month? Okay, 6 months. All right, so by not solving that problem from getting from 10,000 to 20,000, over the last 6 months, that has cost you $6,000 by not fixing that problem, right? Well, yeah, I guess you could say that. Okay, and so then let's like play this out over the next 6 months, another 6 months. Do you think doing what you're currently doing, you're going to be able to get from 10,000 to 20,000? Oh, maybe. Okay. Well, like, let's say that that's not the case, because otherwise you would have already fixed it, right? Nothing has changed over the last 6 months. You said you don't have time. You've been burned before. You got all these other things on the go, so you're not going to be able to do it. And so over the next 6 months, it's going to cost you another $60,000, right? So there's $120,000 that this has cost you by not taking action. And you're telling me that you want to continue to not take action, right? And my program is only $5,000, right? And when you compare that with the $120,000 in lost opportunity here, the cost of inaction is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Can you see that? Does that make sense? Yeah. So what are we doing here? Like, what are we talking about? It's a couple grand. Like, let's get started, you know? It always comes down to, like, who cares about the prospect more and who's more confident in the solution and how it works. Is it you or is it their skepticism? Right? I mentioned this in one of the videos beforehand, but if your skepticism, if your certainty and if your certainty is higher than their skepticism, you'll win the sale. And if you care more about the prospect than they care, then you will win the sale. And so it's not about, like, specifically choosing the right words. Sometimes it's the right music. And so behind that is the care and the knowing that you have that this is the right solution for them, and not getting off the phone with them until you've communicated and you've tried every angle. And so Hormozi talks about one of his best salesperson's calls. He, like, loves listening to them because he's like, all right, like, I'm not giving up on you, John. You know, like, let's figure this out. You know, you don't have the money. You've been trying this for years. Like, what are we doing here? I'm not giving up on you, my friend. Like, I can see how badly you need this. And, like, actually genuinely try and, like, care and give them the best advice humanly possible. So the person who cares the most about the prospect wins. And then selling isn't about convincing them to buy. It's about helping them convince themselves so that they can make a confident choice. And so if you want this Miro board, I will drop it in the free school group. But that is how you handle all of these silly little objections across these different levels of blame. And so never let people tell you that they're too busy, that it's too expensive, all this other kind of malarkey. It's all just a smokescreen. And so it's on us to memorize these sorts of things, lead with care, and try and help them come to a decision and show them that their objections are not true and that there is almost no risk. The highest, like the most, one of the closes here, which one is it? One of these, like, all-purpose answers, you can say, okay, there are two paths that we can take here. One path is guaranteed not to get you to the result, which is not taking action today. One path I'm saying is guaranteed, and we even guarantee it in the fine print, but it's going to, at the very least, get you closer to your goal. Can you see that? And so that's a last little bit of wisdom here for you that we can drop into the all-purpose answers for you. So, care about the prospect, win the sale. If you like this video, leave me a comment. Let me know. Like, subscribe, join the free school group here, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace.